I'm Muffy.
I'm Chrissy.
And today we're going to start off our Bible Buzz by saying
Our Bible verse.
our Bible verse. Absolutely. And we're going to say it in unison.
Okay.
So, are we ready? It's from Philippians chapter 4, verse 13. And it is, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Show us your muscles. There you go. I mean, you guys, we're doing a great job. It hasn't been smooth sailing. You know, we're not at church, having our Sunday school together. We're having to do it online, and y'all are doing a really good job. It's not easy to have to be isolated. So anyway, we're going to talk about Epiphany, you all, which is our season of the church year. We're right here in Epiphany, and we're actually getting very close to the beginning of Lent. And so this year, Epiphany is 7 weeks. It started on Sunday, January the 6th, and it started off during this time of Epiphany. We're hearing about all of the miracles that Jesus is doing to show us that he is the Son of God. And my goodness, we've heard some wonderful stories, haven't we?
Yes,
Which has
we
been
have.
really exciting. And Chrissy is going to tell us of another cool one in just a few minutes. So anyway, you all get ready.
Thank you, Muffy.
You're welcome.
All right. So for our story today, we're going to hear some things that Jesus was telling us, people listening to him then, but he's also speaking to us.
Right.
So this comes from the Gospel of Luke, and it's found in chapter 6, verses 27 through 38. So, everyone, listen to me. I am telling you to love your enemies. Be good to people who hate you. If they throw curses at you, throw blessings back. Pray for them. If they punch you in the face, don't punch back, but shame them by offering your other cheek to hit. Give your coat to someone who asks, and give food to beggars. Treat people the way you would want them to treat you, and you can't go wrong. I know it's hard. If it were easy, everyone would do it. If you love only people who are good to you, what would be special about that? That's simple. Love your enemies, do good, give from your heart, and expect nothing in return. That's how God works. Follow God's example. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and you will get what you have, so much more to give. You won't believe how many ways God will bless you if you love as God loves and give as God gives.
Wow. Great story. And now we'll have some questions for Father AJ.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so this was another hard one.
Yes, Jesus is asking a lot of us.
He is. He is. So the first question, though, I'm going to ask is, I've never heard it be called the Sermon on the Plain.
Yes.
And so why is it called the Sermon on the Plain and not the Sermon on the Mount? Is the Sermon on the Mount and the Sermon on the Plain the same thing?
Yes. That's a great question. They are the same thing, but they're
Okay.
from different Gospels.
Oh.
And it's the sermon not on this airplane. Let's just be clear about that. It's
Oh,
the
yeah,
sermon,
right. Yeah, say that. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
not the plane like you fly. They didn't have planes.
Plain.
Yes, Plain, the level place.
The grass, like sitting out on the lawn.
Yeah, I think Kansas maybe.
Right. Or like maybe if you're at the park
Or the
and you're
park,
at the
a big
if you're
open lawn.
you're looking at the gazebo and you're sitting out on the ground, and because we've all done that to watch movies and stuff like that, which is great fun. And
Yeah,
hear bands.
absolutely.
And
Oh
stuff
yeah,
like
the
that.
plane is nice.
Yeah.
Well, in Matthew's gospel, it's the Sermon on the Mount.
Okay.
And the sermon isn't in the sense like we think of the word sermon in the church service, right?
Right.
The sermon was more the teaching. So Jesus gathers his disciples. And throughout Matthew's gospel, important things happen on mountains.
Oh, okay.
For
gotcha.
example, the giving of the law for Moses, but even Jesus goes up to the mountain and is transfigured, for example. So things happen on the mountain.
That's going to be a later
Yes.
Next week.
Coming up.
Yeah.
But in Luke's gospel, he puts it on the plain. And if you think about it, that also makes sense, because it's a place for teaching. It's a place where you can see everyone. Luke's gospel is very concerned with equalizing things.
Oh, okay.
So remember in the beginning where Mary sings the Magnificat, the lofty have been lifted up and the exalted have been made low.
Okay.
And so if you think about, Luke wants to raise up the poor, and those who are really rich, he wants to kind of bring down. He wants egalitarian. Okay. He wants people to be equals. And so to be on the plane in that sense sort of makes sense. That Luke is kind of bringing everyone together. He's balancing the highs and the lows.
Right. Which so that makes total sense, that everybody's on the plane, on the same level playing field.
Yes, good. That's great. Level playing field.
Which leads me to my next question of what Jesus is asking us to do is no easy task. I mean, that's really hard, to be nice to people that don't like you and that you don't like.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean,
to love your enemies.
Yeah. So
to bless those who curse you.
Right. So what
Pray for those who persecute you.
Right. So what I'm wondering is, okay, what I want to know is, how can we begin? How can we begin to do that? To try to change our hearts and to not react when people are mean and hateful to us. Yeah. How do you do that? You know, because that's not something you can do overnight.
No. And
do you have any tips? That's what I'm looking for, tips.
Yes, I'll give you some tips.
Yeah.
But first, let's start by saying, for humans, this is impossible.
Okay.
But not for God. With God, all things are possible. And so I think we have to start there. This is something Jesus is asking us to do, because Jesus cares about us. And he cares about all of humanity, all of creation. And he knows that hating of any kind is like a fire that consumes and burns up everyone, not just those we hate. It consumes the hater too.
Yeah, because when you do hate somebody or not like somebody, you feel bad.
Yes.
You have a bad feeling in the pit of your stomach.
And that badness infects every part of us. Even though those people we're upset with, we may have every reason to be upset with them.
Right.
It's what we choose to do with that anger, that upsetness, that Jesus is trying to point us to something bigger, better, holier, more constructive, more peaceful, more life-giving for everybody.
Yeah.
So we have to. So the first tip is to trust that Jesus isn't going to ask us to do something that isn't really, really important. Trust that Jesus knows this is the Word of God made flesh, the wisdom of God here to show us the way.
Right.
So trust is the first thing, and then the second thing is, the second tip, I guess I'd say, is that we have to trust that Jesus not only gives us things to do, but helps us do the things. And so I often come back to the reminder that Jesus promised that I will never leave you to face your troubles alone. So Jesus is asking us to do something that's difficult, but it's important.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus is going to help us do what he's asked us to do. Even these, what seems like impossible things, like loving our enemies.
Yeah.
And maybe the way to do that, the third tip, which is always the most important tip, is to ask God to help in prayer.
That's a big one.
To really, and sometimes we say that, especially when it comes to forgiveness, to ask God to help me forgive. And when I can't do that, I can ask God to help me to want to forgive.
Right.
And if I can't do that, I can ask God to help me to want to forgive. You see, so always that is a prayer that sort of embodies this sense that I trust that Jesus is asking me to do something important, and I'm also trusting that he's going to help me do it.
Right. So it's kind of like we're asking Jesus to help us not pass that pain on to somebody else.
That's a great way.
Like, you're feeling the pain, it makes you feel horrible. So what you automatically want to do is make that person feel horrible back. And so to not do that, to be able to, is to think, to pray, like you said, which is such a good one, and then to try not to make that person feel horrible back.
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't like the way you're feeling, ideally you don't want anybody else to feel that way either.
Yeah.
Even though in your anger, in my anger, I may think, well, they deserve to feel that way.
Yeah.
And some of it is all rooted in this foundational belief that we're all created in the image of God.
Yeah.
So even when people make really bad decisions or bad choices or behave incorrectly, and that do hurt us, just because they made a bad decision doesn't mean they're a bad person.
Right.
They're still a son or daughter of God.
Right.
And in that sense, they're our brother and our sister. And so we can't stop seeing them as our brother and sister.
Right. Yeah, because God did not make us to be perfect.
Right. Which is very different than saying, we don't say, ouch, that hurt.
Right.
Or I don't think it's right that you did that. That's
Hurt
not
my
what
feelings.
Jesus is saying.
Yeah.
Jesus isn't saying don't say anything, just put up with it.
Right.
He's saying love your enemies, pray for them.
Yeah. He's saying you can say that, ouch, that really hurt my feelings.
Absolutely. It's critical.
Yeah. But he doesn't want you to punch him back.
Yeah. That's a good way to think of it. Yeah.
Okay. Ooh. Thank you so much.
Really important lessons. And it does help to sit on that level playing field.
Yeah.
Where we can talk
I like
to
that.
one another about it, to try to understand, and then hopefully act that out in our lives.
Yeah. Good luck, everybody, because, I mean, it's hard for me.
It's hard for me.
So it's going to be, if it's hard for us, it's going to be hard for everybody. So if you have any questions about it, here's your man.
Yeah. Come to church too. There is something about being together, knowing that we're all trying to do this together, that gives a lot of support and courage too.
Yeah, and talk to mom and dad or a trusted adult.
Always.
Yeah. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye for now.
So that was good to talk to Father AJ. He really helps clear up some of our questions.
Yes, he does.
And so now I've got some questions for you and your family or friends to talk about. And so one of them is, many people were curious and excited to hear Jesus teach. And as you listened, what words did you hear Jesus repeat? He repeated some good words and some difficult words, I think. So this story is also, we have heard it sometimes as the Sermon on the Mount, but it's also called the Sermon on the Plain. And when Jesus preached to a large group of diverse people gathered in the field, so that's why it was called Sermon on the Plain. So imagine sitting in the grass that day. What questions would you want to ask Jesus after his sermon? That's a good one. Mm-hmm. I know I'd have questions, just like we have with Father AJ.
Yes.
It can be hard. Another question is, it can be hard to love people who are not kind to us. Isn't that the darn truth? Why does Jesus want us to do that? And then our last question is, during the season of Epiphany, we focus on God showing love, grace, and mercy through Jesus, and on the ways Jesus invites us to love, to share, to be great, to show grace, and to have mercy. What is one way you can be loving, kind, or generous to somebody this week without expecting anything in return? Ooh, another good question,
yes.
Isn't it? You all have fun talking, and Christy's going to tell us a minute about our activity.
All right, well, thank you, Muffy.
Welcome.
Our story today came from a part of the Bible called Sermon on the Plain. In it, Jesus talks about how we should treat people. He tells us we should show kindness, mercy, and love to all people, even people we don't like or people who might not like us. Jesus tells us not to judge people and assume bad things about them, but rather treat people the way we'd like to be treated. He reminds us God is merciful and we should be merciful too. Following Jesus' instructions is good because it spreads God's love in the world, and it can also be difficult. It's hard to be kind to someone who isn't kind to you. When you don't like someone, focusing on other feelings can be a real challenge. It's helpful to express our feelings in healthy ways so we can focus on kindness and mercy. One way we can do that is through a body shakedown.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
So give yourself lots of space for your body to move around. Close your eyes and allow yourself to feel any hard feelings you might have. Maybe you are angry about something that didn't go your way during the week. Maybe you are frustrated about something that happened. Maybe you're disappointed or annoyed or hurt. It's okay to have these feelings. As you think about them, pull your arms and legs in tightly against your body and count to 10. When you get to 10, release your feelings through your body. Shaking your arms and legs. Make sure you take a deep breath as you do this. Feel free to repeat this if you still need to release some feelings.
Oh,
Shake
I
them
like
all
that.
out. Take
Yeah.
those bad
Ooh.
feelings
Yeah.
and then let them go.
Let it out. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to remember that and do that more, that's
Yes.
really helpful.
That is a good, yes. So there's something you can do during the week.
Yeah,
Anytime
absolutely.
you're feeling frustrated or angry.
And gosh, don't we all have those feelings of frustration and disappointment? Oh, it's part of life. It really is. It's a natural thing to feel those things.
Yes.
So thank you, Chrissy. That was really wonderful. That's a very useful tool to remember. And so now we're going to close with prayer. And a prayer, as you know, is like a gift. So open up your hands like you're receiving a gift. And when we say the prayer at the end, take the gift and put it in your heart. Merciful God, you call us to show your love to everyone, not just those we like. Help us to love others even when it's hard, and remind us to be kind as you are kind. Amen. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
It was great to be with you, and we'll see you next week.